to Rockin' Kentucky Blue, the podcast where we are serious about our Cats. Join two card-carrying Blue Rockin' members of the Big Blue Nation as they keep you up to date on the latest happenings of the University of Kentucky Wildcats. Here are your hosts, one calm member of the sports media, Michelle Mamba Brown, and one crazy fan, Jay Hayes.
Welcome to Rockin' Kentucky Blue, the podcast that has it all, and what we don't have, we make up. Episode 45 tonight. I'm telling you what, this week has been filled with stranger things.
Very strange.
Like,
very, very strange.
Tell me whenever you watched the Maui Classic in prime time. You watch that on Wednesday afternoon at 2:45. Or Tuesday morning at 11. No, see the Maui Classic going on in prime time. And that's not the stranger thing. The stranger thing was it wasn't played in Maui. Even stranger than that, it wasn't even played on an island.
Yeah. Asheville, North Carolina.
It doesn't get much stranger than that.
Yeah, it very, very strange. And Duke.
Oh, well, just give them a home game. I tell you what, the Cameron Crazies, they do not translate well to cardboard.
I mean, it really didn't bother me too much with everything going on, and that place being a little closet. So
Like I said, and I thought for sure they were going to have like a couple of ball boys underneath the cardboard to make it, bounce up and down, but that didn't happen.
Right.
And the fact that they lost on their home court, and they tried to draw like 3 charges there toward the end, and every one of them was a block.
Yeah,
that's a stranger thing.
Very strange.
And I'll tell you one other thing that it doesn't get any stranger than. You already know. Yeah.
I mean,
the strangest thing in all strange stuff.
For you,
well, yeah, live it, but because it's the only time it's going to happen for like another 8 months.
Very strange.
You all know that Jay is wrong. Jay is wrong about everything. Jay is wrong about the weather, the color of the sky, how he puts on his shoes.
No.
Jay is so wrong, like he lives on Wrong Avenue.
Wow. Really?
He tried to move to a place on Wright Street, and they went, no, it ain't happening, bud. But he has been saying on this podcast since the day this podcast started, he was telling everybody that Isaiah Jackson was a freak athlete. Everybody's going to be saying, this is the guy. And people laughed at Jack. I didn't laugh. I agreed with you.
I don't know if you agreed or not. I think you said that he would probably be here for 4 years or something.
I did not say that.
It was something snarky. I don't know what you said, but it was very snarky as usual.
No, it wasn't. On that one, like if you're talking about, I said, Cal knows something about him.
Yeah.
So to me, that's like agreeing. He's going to be something.
One thing that I'm right about. We got a special guest tonight.
Now that is correct. We have a very special guest. I'm excited. I had him on my previous podcast. I have been on podcasts with him. Super guy.
And the one chance that I got a chance to talk to him on a podcast, I couldn't be there that night. So I'm super excited.
And you should be, because this is somebody they know Kentucky basketball.
Yes.
Like they know it.
Yes.
Not because there's somebody that's sitting in a little perch in the media.
They've been there.
They lived it.
They lived it.
So, and they're a big part of the BBN on Twitter. Twitter embraced him.
Yeah, big time.
It's fun.
So without further ado.
What jump shot by Roger Harden.
One time, a long time ago, he used to deliver Dan Issel's newspaper Roger Harden.
Yes, I did. Wow. Very impressive.
So we've done our research.
I saw that and was like,
Man,
he was destined. for
Dan,
Kentucky.
and I tell you, first of all, it's great to be on the show. There's nothing I'd rather do on any night, particularly with people that bleed blue, is sit around and talk Kentucky basketball. It's as exciting as it gets. But my father was a basketball coach at the University of Denver through my elementary and all the way through 7th grade. And I delivered the Denver Post and I delivered the Rocky Mountain News. One was a morning and one was an afternoon newspaper. And Dan Nissel, I can't tell you the exact address, but he lived on Dartmouth Avenue. And usually that was back in the day where like threw the newspaper up on the porch. If you were the paper boy, you were riding a bike and then you had to go collect the money at the end of the month. And I always was hoping that he would be there, but it was always his wife, who is a rather petite lady, very attractive lady. And I think she was a cheerleader at Kentucky.
Yeah.
But so had my first connection to Kentucky basketball. So I think it was the Denver Post. But take it to the bank. He lived on Dartmouth Avenue.
Wow. You were destined for Kentucky.
Talk about doing research. I know that you used to sneak Herschel York into the Wildcat Lodge.
Herschel York was the now, I believe, a professor at the Southern Baptist Seminary. Is that right? And also the pastor at Buckner Baptist Church in Frankfort.
Yeah, and that's where I'm a member.
Was the music youth director. Yes. And I follow him on Twitter, a dear friend, him and Tanya. And I remember when all of his sons were born. And I got a great story about Herschel. He was a bit of a prankster back then. He was the youth director and he was the music director. And he used to disciple me. He'd come into the lodge, and I was brought up in a very religious background, but he and I got close, and he called me one day, and he said, Roger, I got a problem. And I'm on the phone at Wildcat Lodge, and I said, what is it? And we would always meet at the Long John Silver's. You know what that Long John Silver is? Right there on, I think, is it on Main Street? Yeah, on Richmond Road, right? And so we'd meet kind of halfway because he lived right across from the church. He said, I got a problem. I've got one of my, and I need to talk to you about it. It's one of my choir members. I've got one of my choir members pregnant. Right? I'm like, oh my, what? So I get there and it's Tanya, his wife. She was in the choir. I was like, for like 15 minutes, right? On the way down to Long John Silver's, I'm going, I have no idea what to tell him. I mean, and then when he got there, I said, man, I can't, you all right? He goes, yeah, man, hey, it's Tanya. Don't lighten up, it's Tanya.
Well, I had posted on Facebook tonight that you were going to be on the podcast, and within 2 minutes, Tanya sent me a personal message, and she goes, I just love Roger. You be sure and tell him. Herschel and I said hello, and we love him, and he's a good man.
Well,
so I'm passing that along.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And then Herschel was the one a couple of weeks ago that used you as an analogy in the sermon.
Yes, I had a couple of people mention that on Twitter, which, wow. You know, I'm 57 and I just keep peeking, Michelle, right?
I'm telling you.
I said when I heard it, I said it must have been about the prodigal son.
And it wasn't. And here's the amazing thing. If you really want to think you're peeking, wait till you hear this. Mm-hmm. The sermon is in the later part of Luke when Jesus knows that the ascension is coming soon. And he's talking to the disciples. And he's like, I'm leaving a friend with you. That's how you're going to talk to the Father, through the Holy Spirit. And so Herschel said, like when I was in school, he's in Roger Harden, he'd take me into Wildcat Lodge, or sometimes he'd let me come into Memorial as long as Joe B wasn't there.
Yeah.
And he goes on with a few more details, and he said, it's who you know. If you know the right people, you get to good places. So the analogy being, we have the Holy Spirit, so we can talk to God. He knew
True.
Roger Harden, so he could go to Wildcat Lodge.
Yes.
Maybe a bit of a stretch. I think he was just trying to work in the fact that he knew you.
Yes. Well, Kentucky basketball being pretty much everybody's second religion in the state of Kentucky, maybe he was in the ballpark, right? Maybe he was in the parking lot.
I think his best moment was last year after the Louisville game, and he came in that the next morning, and he said he thought it was, hoped everybody enjoyed the game. He said, but he felt so weird when he got it because his hands kept doing this and he couldn't make them stop. It's like you don't see too many pastors throw the L's down on the pulpit, but
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I took a picture of it, so I have that for posterity.
That's good. That's good. Well, he leads Blue. He's a dear brother. He's a great friend. So glad to hear those stories.
Jay, you're chomping at the bit. Come on and get with it, buddy.
Okay. Kentucky basketball. What is the issue? And one of my concerns or thoughts was that in the Richmond game and the Kansas game, these young guys look gassed. And, everyone on Twitter, everyone on social media, period, is like, we need shooters. So my question that I posted on Twitter was, could conditioning be a factor in the shot making so far?
I think it could. They burn a lot of energy on defense. I mean, that first half of defense against Kansas, wow.
Right.
That was amazing. And it generated a lot of their offense. And I think young players, and of course my reference is my own experience and from coaching, you spend a lot of mental energy, it's your first time out there, you're playing Kansas, you're playing, you got a Kentucky jersey on. So, your mindset, you're adjusting to maybe the adrenaline, the speed of play, just the whole understanding that this is Kentucky basketball and you're playing. So I think, last year at the beginning of the year, we had trouble with 3-point shooting as well. And then Q started really dialing it in, if you remember. And I just think they need a few to fall with 3-point shots. Once you see a couple go in, it kind of gets contagious. I have 3-point shooting at this point as a concern, but I believe, like Coach does, I think we're much better. I mean, I saw him shoot it against, Morehead State, and, those were different types of threes. I think the type of threes we've been taking, Jay, are off the dribble, step backs, way too many of those. Maybe coming off, it's okay. A lot of them coming off that ball screen. The threes that I think, that are the best high percentages are those inside out threes where you throw it in and your big's going to fan it to a perimeter guy spotting up on the opposite side or come back to ball side. Or you get that ball reversal three where you go in, you're driving, you kick it, and the ball goes around and you get that rhythm three. I think don't want to speak over a Hall of Fame coach, but I would assume those are more of the threes that he's looking for. And I think once we start to get those, I think we'll be adequate enough that it's not going to be one of those things that prevents us from winning basketball. So I don't buy into the fact that we can't shoot or that we don't have shooters. That's all those perimeters guys did their whole lives was score from the perimeter.
Right. And we've seen these guys shoot. So conditioning, they look gassed to me. And, we all know that, shooting in practice or in warm-ups is totally different than shooting in game because you're running. I mean, your shot is effective, you're gassed. And, with this year of COVID, we know that they missed a lot of opportunities to practice and condition and those things. But I just thought that up by watching them. I was like, maybe the shooting woes is contributed a little bit to conditioning because they did look gassed, and it's been in later half of the games when they've lost it, just gas. So that was one of my thoughts.
Well, and another thing, Jay, one thing that I really like about what's going on, and I think, of course, I'm a speed freak. I like to play fast. I like to watch fast basketball. I think when you've got the ability that we have, I always like to see us get down the floor and attack the defense before it can get set up. But at the pace, and I think you make a very valid point on this with the energy that we spend on defense, because I mean that defense the first half was a thing of beauty.
Yes.
I mean they were physical. They could not get to the hole on us. I mean that was great. But also on their misses, we really pushed the ball this year, don't you think? I mean, there
Yeah.
is a big emphasis. As soon as we get it, we're gone.
Yeah.
So, I think, from my experience, there could be some validity. And actually, that's the first time I've heard somebody mention that. So I think you got a valid point, Jay.
I think.
Now the thing, everybody was like jumping ship and all this one and done. I'm tired of it, and Cal can't coach, and the sky's falling, and Chicken Little is heading off to Acapulco or something. Anyway, everybody was like overlooking what I thought was a really huge positive, because I know the last few seasons it's like Cal trying to pull teeth from a chicken to get them to grasp the concept of offensive rebounding. And the Richmond game alone, 21 offensive rebounds. They're getting after the misses. They value that. I think what they have not yet learned, and because you should have had a couple of exhibition games, and you should have had a couple of cupcake games, and then gone to Kansas, but that didn't work out that way this year. And you would have had time for Cal to pop a couple of arteries in his head, explaining that you got to share the basketball. And when they see the other team score a couple of times, it's that, and it's the freshmanitis. We know it. They stop passing, and 0 assists in the second half wasn't in Richmond.
Yeah.
That to me, that's it. When you stop passing, the writing's kind of on the wall. And that can be coached out.
Yeah. Well, I think with the reaction, I didn't see the first two ball games. I listened to them on the radio. I was traveling. Just absolutely terrible holiday travel management by me. It was crazy. So I missed the first two, but I listened to it on the radio, following it on Big Blue Twitter. And I want to say we've got great Big Blue Twitter. I mean, resources, stats, commentary.
Oh, yeah.
So, but it's still not like putting your eyes on the game, right? So Kansas was the first one that I really got to see. Now, when I got home, I realized that you can watch highlights on YouTube on some of the past games. I'm not real savvy tech-wise. But I think frustration with our fans, and of course I have a lot of friends that are fans, whatever, is the frustration of every year watching new guys go through the same process. However, we all know once we start clicking, everybody comes back in and we get on board and things go forward. So that's just kind of been the tempo of every year under the way that coach recruits. So I don't pay a lot of attention to that, but I have to say I do understand the frustration by our fans having to experience that every year. Pretty much every year. Not every year, but pretty much every year. Particularly when you've got young guards. That's, being a point guard, we're always the last to adjust. You got a lot to do. Ask you, Mintz. I mean, those guys, Coach Powell said, he's not real sure what he wants you to do offensively. And I always watch the game as a former point guard. I always watch that position a lot. And I always like to, point guard is a little bit like a quarterback. When you get the ball, you got to know what the coach wants, and you got to know the sequence of, if this isn't there, this is what we do, and this is what we do. And so I could tell there was a little confusion as what coach wanted them to do. So a lot of times I felt like they were trying to make things happen on their own, and I think that's why we force a lot of turnovers. So, I don't. I'm easy on. As a player, I always knew. There were times back when I played, the Boo Birds came out and rough, and midway through the second half, you have a run. It's just like junior high, dating your junior high girlfriend, where you arguing before you go into your science class, and then after school you're kissing behind the art building. It's just kind of like one of those passionate little, meaningless relationships that you just are venting frustration. And of course, so many people now have access to social media that they vent. And I did too. I tweeted at half. I go, I see hope for the Big Blue Nation. Well, I had a couple of people go, hey, that didn't age well. I saw a lot up in that Kansas game. I felt better about our team after that game than what I listened to and heard after the Richmond game. Would you say that, Michelle? Jay,
Oh, I
would
would
you
have.
say you felt a little bit
Oh
better
yeah.
about our future?
Yeah. I was seeing
Yeah. I saw
even
enough.
even when they were coming back, when Kansas was coming back, I still saw some going toward the Final Four things going on in this early Kentucky team. Even though I was frustrated, I
Mm-hmm.
still saw those things, and in
Mm-hmm.
my head, I'm thinking, oh, even though they didn't, commentating didn't talk about it, was the fact that we're without Keon Brooks. He's not in this game either. I
Mm-hmm.
understand they were talking about Marcus Garrett, being sick, and he's not
Oh,
uh, his full thing.
before you
So he
go any
can
further,
do.
this just irritates me. Like he's displaying every sign of symptom that there is
Right.
of COVID. He gets a negative test, but we all know there are such things as false negatives. There's false positives, there's false
Right.
negatives. And people there on the ground, saying that this kid's struggling to breathe. He's got a fever. But ESPN tells you how brave and courageous he is to be out there on the court playing, instead of saying how selfish and irresponsible he was to his team and the Kentucky team, because even if it's not COVID, he could be infecting all of them with something else that he's hacking up.
Right. And back to my point of that was, that was Marcus Garrett was the talk, and there was no talk about, well, Kentucky is without a potential starter in Keon Brooks. And, so my question would be to you, Roger, is this Kentucky team a different team with Keon Brooks? Is he a game changer for
Oh no,
Kentucky?
I think he's. I think. Look, I think. Yeah, he's definitely. If we're going to make a deep run, Keon has to have a good year for us.
Now,
Okay, I
now
think
don't
we all
don't
knew
let me
that. I
into
mean, you
Kentucky,
can tell
Indiana.
him.
Don't let
No,
me into
hey, I
Kentucky.
am a little biased to the Indiana guys.
Right,
I am.
right.
I am very biased to the Indiana guys that wear the uniform. I have to. I will plead guilty. However, I do consider myself a Kentuckian after what 38 years,
Right.
and I earned my stripes when I left Indiana. Believe me, okay. But I think anytime I look at a team at the beginning of the year, I've always said if a team plays with unity, you to go deep. I think you have to have a very unified basketball team. And
Right.
what I saw the first half of that Kansas game was great unity. I saw great spirit. And the second thing is I start to look for who is our sixth, seventh, and eighth man, and how much
Yeah.
production and how do they fit. Because when you get into the tournament, inevitably you might have an injury, you might get into foul trouble. And I think our sixth, seventh, and eighth man, possibly even ninth man, we are very strong as long as we're unified. Okay. And we have one purpose, and that is to win a national championship.
Right.
So to me, I've seen that they're young. They got to sustain that. They didn't sustain that the second half. They didn't completely break, but they did break in the second half. They let up. And I think it was due to our shot selection. I think right now, our shot selection is what I call unity killer. When you have guys that take a shot, and I was a little critical of Cal indirectly. I think when some of these young guys, I'm all for. This is what I like about Cal. Let him play. Let them do what they can do. Let's get out and transition. But I think as a young player, you got to teach them early. A bad shot not only is going to cost us maybe 2 or 3 points, but what it does to the mentality of the team. When I see you take a bad shot and he doesn't come out, and then we got a bad shot over here, all of a sudden, I'm not real sure how important running the offense is. So I think in the next couple of games, you might see Cal tighten the reins on that based on a few of the articles that I've read today on social media. That I think Cal's probably going to start to be a little bit more disciplined on that. And it does, and I understand why he does it. He doesn't want to kill their creativity, which is why they're great, or their confidence to try to make something happen. But early on, taking bad shots is really bad for your team chemistry. And it affects your defense because you go back on the other end, you get scored on, it will implode, it will rot your basketball team.
As long as you are clear with the player when you come out, that's because that was a poor shot that you chose to take and not you missed a shot. And there's some people, well, why are they're pulling their body, they miss one shot and they pull them out.
Great point.
No. Yeah. If they take a good shot, it's like what Cal said against the first game against Moorhead. BJ Boston said he missed a ton of shots, but none of them were bad shots. Because he made some as well. There was mistakes he made.
Yes.
But, he said it was more in form and not in the IQ part. So he said, you do that, you play the right way, you stay on the court.
That's a great point. That's a great point. That's a great point. Excellent point.
From a point guard, say you're coach in Kentucky, do you stick with Devin Askew running your team? Because I'll tell you, if you was on social media, he was getting crucified.
I've got great. Well, and that happens, that's the business you're in when you play. And believe me, the Big Blue Nation will embrace him and wash away all those memories.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think I really like Askew. Here's where I'm at with Askew. I think I love his mentality. He plays hard. And despite his mistakes, he doesn't seem that his confidence has been broken. That's crucial. He still comes out there. He at least it appears he has. I like Mintz because when I watch the game, I think the rest of the team reacts to Mintz better right now than they do Devin. Not because I don't think they believe in him or that they don't think he's a good ball player. I think with the experience, when you're a point guard, and I was a point guard at one time early in my career, I'm sure my teammates felt like I was a neurotic horse running towards a burning barn, bringing the ball up, which makes everybody nervous, okay? Later in my career, Jay and Michelle, I was too cool for school. I could handle the tempo. You weren't taking my ball. I learned how to turn, momentum. I was aware of who had shots and who needed to get shots, because you got to make sure as a point guard everybody stays involved. At least the great ones does. The greatest of all time, floor general, in my opinion, to ever don the blue and white, the great Tyler Ulis. I would weep watching Tyler Ulis play. So beautiful, right? So I think he's got some adjustments to make before mentally he can decide, he can control it. So initially, I would like to see Mintz maybe get a little bit more time, but that doesn't mean by the end of the career, if I were the coach. And of course, Cal's got about 2 million of them that, coaches that we all have our own ideas about. I think he can still get quality minutes and maybe by the end of the year be a floor general for us.
Right.
So, but right now I think the guys react to Mintz a little better. They feel a little calmer. But and I made this point on Twitter. If a point guard is like he's like a Australian Shepherd. Really, if you're good, you're like a herder. and you've got to understand what your coach wants. So when you go out there, there's a lot of responsibility to get everybody where they belong, get things
Right.
going, run the play, get everybody in play, etc., etc. And if Cal, who has admitted that he doesn't really know where he wants to go offensively, that's going to show up in your point guard play because he's trying to do what he wants him to do. And if there's a little confusion in Cal's mind about what he really wants to do, believe me, the point guard I saw ask you a couple of times, I don't think understanding what Cal wanted him to do because
Right.
Cal didn't know what he wanted to do. So he was kind of stuck out there trying to make some things happen. So I had great empathy. Now, that's not unusual for a coach at this, in my opinion, to not know what he wants to do offensively. It's always the biggest puzzle that you have to solve. But Cal's solving it a lot all the time every year because he's got such new players. He's got to see how they react. So it's why our offense always struggles really bad every year.
Yeah.
Yes,
Early.
Yeah.
You talk about fans being frustrated by that every year with the struggle. And I guess I've got kind of a different take on it. Maybe I've adapted to this is what the 21st century Kentucky basketball is. And I really kind of enjoy the process of watching what they were and how they grow and develop because, it was not too much off from this time last year when everybody was ready to take a flying leap off of the bridge going into Ohio there, and because Evansville.
Right.
We're just the worst thing that ever happened, and we can't. And then when you get to the last week of the season, that last game, which we didn't know was going to be the last game, but that comeback against Florida, we're going to win the national championship. Well,
oh yeah.
why are you here? You jumped off the bridge
Mhm.
back in November because of Evansville.
Right.
This year it's Richmond.
Yeah, I've seen those posts already. Fire Cal,
Mhm.
they're out there. Those fans are out there, and I've never been like that.
Mhm.
But I'm an optimistic person, but the point guard play was frustrating. But I've like Michelle said, I've come to embrace the process, and I really enjoyed it. I saw even though we lost to Kansas and Richmond, and more Kansas, but I'm seeing more and more improvement and what we can become, and I like it. I'm on board with it.
Mhm.
Here's my questions to
Yeah.
you. See if you get
Well, let me say. Mhm.
just a quick question with it that it seems to me
Go ahead. Did you
that
want to say?
the question that I had, I wanted to see if you had this same impression watching the players, even when they're taking ill-advised shots and maybe missing a defensive assignment or whatever. This team to me seems like they don't let it get them down mentally. You don't see the head hanging or the disinterest that sometimes comes with that I've seen in other teams, the young ones that
Mhm.
really just like kind of kick themselves. And these guys seem to really stay engaged and connected, even if they make mistakes. It's like they're learning through them and actively learning.
Mhm.
But that's what it looks like to me. Do you see that?
Well, I thought in the second half we against Kansas, and again I'm limited. I saw highlights of the first two games, Michelle, but honestly, unless you watch the whole flow and you understand this happened, and
Right.
but I saw a definite drop off in intensity and confidence in the second half. Now they kept battling; they didn't stop playing hard. But I also think we have to have a leader emerge because in times where things start to go against you, there's got to be somebody that the team reacts to, they can feed off of them and do it. I don't know that we found that guy yet. I know Sar has, he's our mature guy, phenomenal low post player, inside outside player. I don't know what personality, and a lot of it is how I feel about player off the floor. those guys spend a lot of time together off the floor as well. So I don't know who that would be just after watching one game, but I think eventually we always got to have that emerge. I thought last year, at the beginning of the year, everybody thought it would be Hagens. But let's be honest, as the year went on, who was our leader last year? Our spiritual leader was Manuel Quickly.
Oh yeah.
Over time, we looked for him to come in with the big shots. I think the guys looked at him. They had more of they gravitated more to him. So, that has to be worked out, I think, as the season goes on. Now, let me go back to two questions ago, because I do want to be on record as saying this. If I had my druthers, okay, I would rather Cal not milk the one and so much, because he always talks about, do we have enough runway? And I think when Askew's probably going to be a 2 or 3 year point guard, which I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled about that, because I looking at him 2 or 3 years down the road, we're going to have built-in stability at the point. You see what I mean? And so I'm always looking for the national championship. I love the University of Kentucky basketball. I have great affection for Coach John Calipari. The way that he treated both coaches that I played for, Coach Sutton, standing up for him at the end of his career and saying, despite some of the things that he went through, he deserves to. Anybody that played for Coach Sutton, you say that about him because we loved him. We're going to love you. The way that he's treated Coach Hall, and given him respect and kept him in front of the Big Blue Nation. When he does that to Coach Hall, he does that for everybody that played for him. And more importantly, I lost a teammate, Eddie Davender, and I know I'm not even supposed to tell the story, but I go ahead and tell it anyway. And the money was short to lay Eddie to rest. And his teammates found out about it, and we were getting together to get the money. But Coach Cal brought Coach Hall to the visitation and heard about it, wrote the check. So I've got great affection for Coach Cal, okay? However, I will never talk about ever that Coach Cal needs to leave or all of this. Now, as far as the way things go inside basketball program, on his offense and things like that with recruiting, I would prefer him not. I don't mind the one and done. I think they should go after the first year. But I think you can recruit any way you want at the University of Kentucky. And maybe, as we start to get our stability every year, the last 3 years, who's it been with? He gave us some stability. And thank God the way that Reed Travis came in that first year. Was he great? He was a great stability early. So maturity does matter in winning a national championship. And let's be really what we want. We won a national championship for Kentucky. And I hope we never surrender those expectations. Because once we do, we'll become UCLA. Okay? So I don't mind our fans' expectations. Right. As a player, I was taught that criticism from fans and stuff like that is just part of it. I remember, Michelle, you and I talked about it, and I kind of made a comment publicly like, that's just part of it, stuff like that. Well, I was talking from my own experience, have been criticized as a ball player. But as a fan, do I want to see fans do it? No, I don't want to see fans do it. Let me make that clear. But as a player, you've got to learn, because if you think we're critical, if one of them goes and plays for the New York Knicks or somebody like that, those people, they're beyond cruel. Okay, so it's all preparation to get to the next level, that you got to learn how to deal with criticism from fans. And like I said earlier, you start playing, it all goes away. Everybody remembers the last half of my junior and senior year. If they remember the first year and a half, the first 2.5 years, I don't even know that they'd follow me on Twitter. So if you end well and you start playing well, that's just the nature of sports. The affection towards you, it's really, can't take personal. It's really based on your performance. and you got to be able to put that in its right context.
Well, the other big change that nobody talks about a whole lot is Kenny Payne leaving. He's been a cornerstone on Cal's staff, and that's from Cal's perspective. I'm sure there are certain. Well, I mean, I know that there were things Kenny just handled. It was, they didn't have to even really discuss it. Kenny knows I'm doing this. This is what we do. And now it's Jay Lucas. So, it could be Cal's having to put a little more attention on communicating to a new coach what we do. I don't, that's just one thought that I had, that I think when you have a change in the coaching staff, we've been spoiled.
I think that's a valid. I think that's a valid. Yeah, I think that's a point. The upside, I think, is it Bruiser? He brought in Flint.
Yeah,
yes.
Coach. Yeah. What was his name? The new assistant from Indiana.
Bruiser,
he played for him and coached with him for a while, didn't he?
Yes, that's correct.
Didn't the new? Yes. So to me, there's probably a little bit more simpatico there than normally if a guy had never been with Cal. But that's a very valid point. I coached a small high school for 5 years up in a small town in Kentucky, and it was the best years of my life. We actually moved back to Williamstown, Kentucky, just to be next to my mother and father-in-law because they were having some issues that my wife and I wanted them to. And I always wanted to coach, and the job opened up. And I really understood quickly the importance of having great assistant coaches, good assistant coaches, loyal assistant coaches. And so I think that's a valid point. But from what I've heard coming out of it, pretty much Cal runs the practice 24/7. And like most great coaches do, they pretty much run and there's really not a whole lot of room between the player and the coach. Though if Kenny Payne recruited you to come to Kentucky and you had that comfort level there with him, the assistant coaches are notorious to have to babysit after a head coach gets on you or you're struggling. Coach that time to go babysit you. That's what those assistants do. They're over there babysitting, encouraging them, getting them back. So if that relationship's not there that was formed during the recruiting, I can see that being a little bit of a deficiency.
Right. Speaking of coaching, Coach Cal is getting a little tougher really early. And I got a soundbite from Coach Cal, and this is a no excuse school.
Guys got to grow up and grow up fast. Part of it is you can't have an excuse. This is a no excuse program. You want to make excuses, you shouldn't be here. This is you figure it out and you go. But, listen to what I just said. We held them to 29%, 23 from the three, and we rebound with them, but they got us. We end up with 12 block shots, and then you have to say, how the hell did you lose? You had 16 turnovers, 8 from your point guards. You're going to lose. Well, why did they have 8? Because they're trying to make hard plays instead of making the easiest play, and getting away from the ball.
I mean, I like to hear it, Cal saying, unpack your bags. It's time to go to work. And as fans, and plus he went on to say, don't give up on these kids, of course we know because Big Blue Nation is very opinionated, and some of it not so good and some of it constructive, if you will, but no excuses, right? I mean, is that where we're at? I mean,
yeah, well, absolutely. I think that's the only way you grow. I think, and that goes for Cal with the excuses. I've heard Cal say that before. And so I'll feel a little better about when he solves his offensive woes and gets those guys a offensive scheme that they understand and can go with, which he has admitted to. But some of those mistakes, I'm going to stick up for the players now. Some of that's on Cal. And, one of the things of the difference between when I played and the era that I played as opposed to this era, it's really something that's changed is that when I played, like with Coach And of course, I followed Rick when I was there. I mean, I've lived with and died with the Cats every single year since, even when I graduated. I mean, it's my time to. I've moved on with my life, but for that 2 hours, I can go back to when I was young and just feel like I'm in the huddle with these guys and I'm a part of the team, right? And I latch on to this one a little bit more than that one. But sometimes I think, coach should be, in a way right there, to be honest with you, I feel like he was putting it on the kids. If I listen to that, if I'm a player and I'm sitting there, I don't think he's owning up to his side of it. Okay. And it has nothing to do with how I feel about coach, but I think coach needs to just, stop right there. He's 8.5 a year and, just own it. Those guys are young, but it sounded to me a little bit like he was putting it on them. Well, why are they there? I would have thought that would have been there early. So I'm a little more up to get out there and say, I'm a player's coach. Coach Cal's a player coach. But sometimes I think he should just, I think there would be more from our fans if he just stopped with himself. And Coach Hall and those guys, they would never have said anything like that to a public. Never. Or Eddie. They never were that vocal about what was going on or how they felt about us, aired it out in public. And as a player, those guys, I'm sure they really hear it, but I'm not sure it does a whole lot. He knows his team better than I do, and it's a different generation of players. So, I raised 4 kids in that generation, but I think, to me, I would have just preferred him to just put it all on himself and stop right there and say, hey, I figured out our offense. I do that quick. This is why that's happening, then, et cetera, et cetera. But that's just my own opinion because I'm hearing him as if I'm a player on the team, and it feels to me like you're putting it completely on us, Coach. So,
right.
I'll throw that out there. I say a lot of good things about Coach. I also have a few things that I feel like should be different. But you know what? There's one difference between me and Coach Cal. You know what that is? He's won a national championship. Okay, so I always respect it.
Well, and Jay played a very limited sound clip of what
Right,
Coach
right.
of his remarks because Coach actually did say about their struggles on offense. He said, "That's on me.
Yeah.
I have not taught them the offense I want them to play yet."
Yeah.
So he did take it on him.
Yeah, but he did.
And you know what? I wish he would have stopped. I wish he would have stopped right there, though. I wish he would have stopped right there. I'm talking about as somebody that's a player.
I mean, because it was emphasized.
But again, that's just everybody has their own opinion about what you can say publicly and what you say about players and coaches and stuff like that. Hey, I was a small town high school basketball coach, and it's a different generation that he's coaching, but that's what he does. But either way, I'm a Cal supporter. Whoever's the coach at the University of Kentucky, I'm going to do it. I will sit here and talk about inside the family. If I'm on an Indiana podcast or I'm on something like that, what I just said to you, I'll never say that on another one. Okay? Yeah, right. It's just so everybody in Kentucky, I have people disagree with me all the time. And to be honest with you, sometimes after I get done reading what they say, we got some really smart fans. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. If I would have known that 3 years ago, I might have won some more high school basketball games. So I don't know it all, but I'm just throwing it out there because I think in the media today, I think there should be more free thought and thinking. I think the media is sanitized. That's one thing. I think the media was a whole lot tougher. There wasn't a whole lot, of media back then, but I felt like the media, particularly the Herald Leader, they put us on pretty hard when we didn't play well. Billy Reed and DG Fitzmore, who was they're great writers. They would put it on us when we weren't playing. When we weren't playing good.
We can disagree on how great
players,
Billy Reed
but they
was.
really put it on Coach Hall.
I didn't like Billy Reed one bit, not at all. No way, no how. I could tolerate DJ, but Billy Reed, not just don't
He,
have any
hey,
news.
once you get to know, yeah, but I like DJ. Yeah. And I think Jerry, Jerry's a Hall of Famer and a sports
Speaking of
writer. I
Jerry,
know
we have a
sometimes
question
he's got
from
to run to
somebody
Mark Story
watching.
and Clay and those guys,
Somebody that's
Okay.
watching our show right now. They wanted to know about my cat. If you saw my cat a few minutes ago that walked around behind my head. Interestingly enough, my cat's name is Jerry.
Yes, I did.
Not
Yes.
named after Jerry Tipton, no. And yes, I finally got to know
Nice.
Jerry by working in the media. I
What about,
didn't
is
have
it
a
after
lot of-
Tom and Jerry?
No, it's because this is, and you got to stay with me because his mother's name was Springer, not because of Jerry Springer, but because when she was a baby, the only thing she did was just bounce like she was on springs. I mean, she did that for like a year and a half. And then I was like, I don't know what to name this cat. And
Yeah.
Jerry. And it was like,
Yeah.
they said, oh, because the Springer. And I went, well, no, but okay, that'll work. So he's just Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get to know Jerry
Yeah.
Tipton,
Well,
he's actually a really cool fellow.
So while we're plugging pet names,
yeah,
I have
hey, and really, I have to know Billy Reed a little bit.
I got a dog. His name is Kitely, her,
Oh,
and we all know where that came from. So
That's now there's a lot of myths right there. God bless you, Jay. I'm a fan forever. Bill
Thank you.
Kiley,
geez,
Mr.
now he'll
Wildcat.
never
That's
finish.
great. Yes.
he'll have to enlarge the doorway to his house
Oh
now.
wow, wow. That's gonna be a soundbite, by the way.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, we better find something
Well,
pretty remarkable
no,
to talk
really,
about me
you
right
know.
now.
No, but the fact that you recognize that, and did you say it was your cat or your dog?
My dog, she's a blue pit, and I wanted
Right, because I'm a big dog
from
person.
Kentucky.
Yes.
Yeah, so that I was like, well, I can't call her Bill. Well, I mean, I could.
Yes.
But I was like, I'll just use, because he's one of my favorite Kentucky people, and I was like Kitely for a dog's name. So yeah, I went with it.
Yeah, and in terms of fan memories, I will say
Jay, let me tell you,
the hour I spent
when
with
Coach
Bill
Hall would. Go ahead.
I just going to say, if I go by memories of things that have happened to me as a fan, spending an hour in Bill Kitely's office doing an interview,
oh man,
is like that's in the top 3 of all things.
Yeah.
And while we're in, there's one of the secretaries.
That's great.
Everybody
Yeah.
stops by his office to say good morning, and one of the secretaries came by. She goes, "Got this for you last night, Bill," and brings him in a whole pan of fudge. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you know me." And he looked at me and goes, "Ma'am, I don't want to be rude, but I'm not sharing." He wouldn't even give me gets 2 pounds of fudge and wouldn't even give me one piece of it, man.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Jay, let me tell you something. A story when Coach Hall recruited us. Of course, this is 35 years ago. He would come in, and of course, he would have the assistants, Leonard Hamilton, and Coach Hall was great with the mothers. All the mothers loved Coach Hall. When you call home to complain about Coach Hall, they just always took his side. He was so far ahead of all moms, not knowing when he was recruiting us. He knew if he got us, if we call our mother, all the mothers are going to be on his side, right? But anyway, he would always say to us when we went into it, he talked to us about our fan base. He really sold our fan base in the relationship with our fan base. And he explained to us that we would be speaking all throughout the state. We would put a coat and tie on. We had to wear them to the games all summer, late spring. All 12 of us would be out doing 2 or 3 speaking engagements. It's anywhere from a little, I went to a little ladies quilting group one time. It might be a youth group. It might be a basketball camp. We spoke high school sports banquets. if you put in a request, he sent us out there all over the state. We'd go up to Princeton, Kentucky, Paducah, Kentucky. That's one thing you're going to do because you're going to learn how to do that. And he said, the other thing is as he said, most of you will marry, and if you come here, you're probably going to marry a girl from Kentucky. You're probably going to stay in Lexington or inside the state. And he said, if you get to a Final Four, I'm connecting this to your dog. He said, if you win a national championship, he said they might name a child after one of their children after you. But he said if they really like you, they're going to name their dog after you. I never got that in his recruiting spill, and I was a big dog guy because he said we love our dogs in Kentucky. And he said if they're really fond of you, they'll name their dogs after you, and that was a part of his recruiting. He would come into our homes.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Wow.
Well, I don't have a dog, so I can't name him Roger. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that's okay. I have both. I have a cat named Nala, and then I have two dogs. So, and really right now, because I'm getting ready to go into a business venture in January, I'm not doing much. But I'm a full-time butler and a full-time chef for my two dogs. I mean, we are like this. They eat what I eat, and boy, have they become very demanding. Okay. My cat just can't understand why the dogs, my relationship with my cat is she doesn't understand why they feel this way about me because she treats me with great contempt sometimes. But I love her. Her name is Nile. So
that's what cats do.
Love animals, big animal love.
Yeah. I'm not really a cat person, which is weird, but I love dogs. So
I love dogs, but if you live in an apartment, dogs are just not the conducive thing. Always had dogs growing up. I've got a niece dog. My niece dog lives in Stamping Ground. She sends me pictures from time to time. Mostly a pit bull with a little lab mixed in. Enough lab that she will not follow instructions because she's got to go do this instead and it has to be done now. Overrides the people pleaser part of the pit bull.
I got a question for you. I'd like to get both of your opinions. When Keon comes back, I'd envisioned that. I mean, when I found out it could be 2 or 3 weeks, that was like devastating news to me. I'm like, what? 2 or 3 weeks? But
to me,
excuse me here. 2 or 3 weeks. What I want to know is when he comes back in, there'll be a little bit of a reshuffling of chemistry because he's going to get time. Probably I can end up starting. So as you look at what we got, what type of an impact you guys both really follow the program and the game and you know how important the chemistry is. Obviously, he's a big piece for us. Who do you see as our starting five, or who do you see him getting less minutes when Keon comes back?
That's a tough one.
And what's it going to do to us offensively? Because Keon's kind of an inside-outside guy. I don't remember a lot of threes by him last year. Okay, I don't have a lot of memories of that. Not saying that he can't shoot the three, but with him and Sar and Isaiah, I mean, come on. Is Isaiah? And what number is he wearing? Number 23.
23.
I love it. I always like it when guys who come in that are either forwards or centers take number 23 because right now I'm really the only point guard that's 23. So when everybody goes to 23 all-time team at Kentucky, I'm pretty much their only choice right now. So Isaiah Jackson is going to be on the all number 23 team at Kentucky, with the White Anderson, of course, the great Anthony Davis, and all the guys that have wore 23. So if as I fade into saying is when we get together at reunions is your former player up to 65. After 65, unless you were a legend like or something like that, you fade away to trivia question territory. You become a trivia question. You're really a former player. You're like a trivia question. But so if I could stay on that all 23 team, usually when it comes up, they're like, well, what point guard wore number 23? I'm pretty much all you got, so I love it.
Well, like I said, it's an interesting question.
But I love my guy. I don't think we can keep him out. I don't think we can keep Sarr. He's got to stay out of foul trouble. You know.
Yeah. That was first. I was like, we need Sarr on the floor, and his issue is fouls. And apparently that was also an issue for him at Wake Forest. So he needs some serious one-on-one get in the face with one of his coaches to get over that. We need Isaiah Jackson on the floor.
Yeah.
His hustle play, his shot blocking is absolutely.
Yes.
And Jay called it a year ago that it was going to be that way. And he is a shot eraser. It's just not shot blocker. Those two got to be on the floor.
Yes. Yes.
I'm kind of leaning towards your way of thinking right now with Nets at the point.
Yeah.
I think he put Keon. I think he put him either the 2 or the 3. I kind of lean toward the 3 because he played more 3 last year. But I think he could slide into the 2 just because he handles the ball really well, or at least he did last year. Now, if he got banged around down the post,
of course, you got Clark in Boston. So
Clark irritated because Clark's wearing number 5, right? My problem with him, and this is not even fair because it's not his fault, but Emmanuel quickly wore number 5, and he never missed a free throw. And then Clark gets up there and like clunk. I was like, number 5 doesn't miss free throws. What are you doing?
Right. So what if you move Clark to the 1?
Yeah.
And Keon
to
the 3, and let Clark be the facilitator.
I think that's got a little.
You can start to see the depth that we're going to have. So it's going to be important that everybody. Most of the time, you don't like what your role is. You don't have to like what your role is, but you have to accept what your role is. And there's going to be some guys that are going to have to accept their role that are maybe starters right now that could slide to maybe a 6th man or something like that. So, and like I said in the beginning, I always look, if we're going to make a run, is how much unity and how much chemistry do we have night in, night out. If you don't have it, you're going to get beat by somebody that's less talented, that has more unity than you have. If we have unity, that unity, in my opinion, will overcome our lack of experience. Because we have great depth. And after I watched Gonzaga, I'm a big believer in the 3. I think you got to have the 3 ball. But when you start to see that they're scoring 65, 70 points in the paint a game, and just like our football team last year when we let Lynn every play. Yeah, I have no objection to just punishing people down low every time down the floor, get them in foul trouble. Maybe run a little bit of a triple post offense where you're, and I'm familiar with the triple post. We ran that in '84 a little bit, and you get, your 3 guys in the top of the key, and you're trying to feed them. You got some action off that. I think we could really punish people. Be interesting to see what way Coach Cal and the staff go with that offense, because they're going to have to anticipate down the road when they get Keon. We can't just put in something for right now, because in 2 weeks when he comes back, will he fit into that? So again, that's the nature of what we do here at Kentucky. Now Kansas, they had a lot of guys coming back from last year. Not everybody, but so they had the advantage of everybody kind of knowing what their role was and their offense and what they wanted to get. And I thought that paid dividends for them in the second half against us. They really knew what their roles were and what each of them had to do to get back in the game and get the W. So we're going to lose a couple every year as we continue to recruit like that. But like Michelle and you both have said, towards the end of the year, if we have that unity, everybody has accepted the role, we could be a beast come tournament time.
Yeah. I also think that Keon, maybe our offense is not doing so well because missing Keon, because he got to practice, and Calipari was running that offense through Keon, I believe, and that could be part of the offensive problem, that he got taken out of that offense, and now it's like, like you said, going on the fly, so to speak, and when he comes back, it could straighten up. That's just a thought.
And Keon's
Yeah.
a big talker on the court too. He's talking and communicating, and I think that our players do seem like they are talking more than what I have seen our younger teams in the past. That's another positive. So, like I said, while the Chicken Littles want to tell you everything that's wrong with the team, I look for the signs of what's going to be right and the things that are hard to teach.
Right.
And we've got a few of the tough things down.
And Michelle, the way when they get that from Kansas, coming off of that loss at Richmond with a young group, wow, that unity, that fire that I saw in the first half was, I thought, tremendous. And it was the defense. We were out in transition. I was like, wow. I felt like I did against Michigan State last year. The first game, I was like, let me walk the aisle, because I'm ready to put my life on the altar for this team, right? So I'm all in with this team. I'm like you. I do see, because I look at it from a player and a coach. I always see things that need to get better, but I never lose my optimism for my team, and I never give up on them. I can't do that. But I will speak a little bit actively about some things that I see that need change, but don't ever confuse that with my deep, abiding optimism that can, as long as we're alive, we've got hope.
Well, that's what we wanted to have you. Like I said, that's why I appreciate having you, because you tell it the way it is, and you tell it from a player's perspective, which no matter how badly I would like to tell it from a player's perspective, number one, from my age, that ship has sailed. Number two, from a talent perspective, that ship has sailed. So,
wow.
I can play piano.
Yeah.
That I can do. If playing piano.
Hey, you know what? You don't, it always amazes me, because I love our fans, because they've done so much for us players. Honestly, it's hard for me to criticize our fan base, even when I think, man, I wish you would do that, but we really got some. I mean, I got people on Twitter. I read you, Jay. I'm following you. I follow a lot of people, and I think, wow, that was a great insight right there. Some of the writers that we have on the beat at Kentucky. I mean, but they follow me. They know the game. They've sat under great coaches. They've learned. They probably played in high school. They might even played a little bit of college ball. Just because you played doesn't always make it right, and it doesn't make you a good coach or commentary. But anytime I have a guy that used to play that's a point guard, and I'm prejudiced, I listen to him, because we see the game in a different way than some of the other guys did. Yeah. So I'm going to say the point guards are better analytically at the game than the.
But
so I've
totally
talked to a couple guys. We've got an email chain that I can't tell who's on it, but some of the former players, we all talk amongst ourselves about things that I never share. One time I did, because after I heard about the Richmond game on the email chain, they were all wanting somebody on our team, which was an 80s maybe, wanted to put that little his ass from Richmond, right? To kind of bump him around, because they thought he was moving around too free. And that was the thing. And I'm thinking, guys, we didn't have a 3-point line. The game was played in the paint. And when a little guy or a guard went into the paint, the bigs love to put a number on us. They love to and this and and I'm thinking the game's played more out on the perimeter now. And plus with the foul situation, with the flagrant 1 and 2, that could really cost you. Hey, if you do it and you don't do it, get good wood on somebody in a real good situation, you could get tossed out of the game. That's really going to hurt your team. So, yeah. but that is just things from talk about that because we like to keep that part private.
Well, Roger, we sure are glad that you dropped in to talk with us tonight. I'm having a hard time believing we've already gone over an hour. See, the good times just roll when you're here.
Good conversation.
Great conversation. And I'm willing to bet that if we ask you later this season, you'd probably come back and join us again. I got to do right here.
Listen, I love it. You guys feel about the program, and anytime you want to talk to Roger Harden about Kentucky basketball, anywhere, any place, anytime. But I always enjoy coming on with you, Michelle, and it was a joy with you, Jay, for the first time. God bless both of you. Thanks for having me.
God bless you, Roger. You have a great evening.
Thank you so much.
Hey, let me say this. Thank you very much.
So that was
kind of cut out a little bit, but yeah.
I think maybe he was. Harden. I know. I think maybe he was on an older computer.
Yeah, it was cutting out pretty good.
But like here we are, and you don't get to blame me for this show running long. This is not my fault.
Well, you're getting the blame.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, Roger Harden was dropping some stuff on us, so I mean, I don't mind.
Okay, everybody write that down. So when Jay sends me a message and complains about the post-show editing, we just have to do it's going to be the lightning round of everything else we need to talk about.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm kind of glad it's the lightning round because football-wise, wasn't a good week.
No, not at all.
But my prediction was a lot closer than yours. You said Kentucky would beat Florida 28-21. I just predicted Kentucky 13.
Yeah.
And I was, not bad.
Someone brought that up on Twitter, and I said, shh. Yeah, Scott Wells actually brought that up on Twitter. Shout out to Scott. He's always pointing those things out.
Yeah, I think he's more on my side.
I think so.
As he should, because I'm right.
Tonight, shout out to John Stiles, who joined and who's been dropping comments on us, man. Good comments. He brought up Wayne Turner, too.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that.
I did, but it was kind of like, you don't stop Roger Harden when he's on a roll.
He's a point guard, and he was going. So,
and I think, we can make a note of this, that next week we can actually do a little Wayne Turner talk and do a little bit of comparison of Wayne Turner's game and what we would like to see of that.
Because, John, I'm not too much older than you. So,
how old is John?
He's, I want to say he's like 4 years, maybe 5 years younger than me.
5 years is a lifetime, trust me.
Right. How old are you, John? Not to put you on out in public like that.
So anyhow, the 49, yeah, he's older than you.
Yeah, so I said I was
now he's 40. Yeah. Now he's 40. Make up your mind. That's a 10-year swing there, John.
Right. He meant 0. It's close. Okay. But yeah, I knew I wasn't much older. I'm 44, so there you go.
And one day he's gonna act like he's growing up. Oh, birthday in May. See, John, we got that in common. The smart, correct people are born in May. Anyway, so we actually played a good first half against Florida.
Yeah.
And all the people said, we never throw the ball. Terry Wilson threw it and threw it and threw it. And people were catching the passes. Unfortunately, most of them were caught by Florida. So people ripping into Terry Wilson on social media, just
yeah.
He was never good enough to play here. Well, he was good enough to get you 9-3. Just back off.
Right.
I had to step away.
Good enough to get you a win at Tennessee.
Yeah. Oh, he's good when that happens. But I think actually what happened, that second half came out. I made a comment to a friend of mine. I said, they hit that wall where there's just nothing else left in them. And the things I've talked about for 2 or 3 weeks about all these losses and these struggles and all these things that have happened outside of a pandemic.
Yeah.
You lose one of your most beloved coaches in the middle of your season. How much more are you going to ask of these kids?
Right.
How much more are you going to ask?
They've been through a
I
lot.
think that it's just they have fought and battled for 2 years through things that none of us could imagine.
Yeah.
And there's people in there that are still crapping on them. I will tell you the same thing I would say to somebody in Kansas. Rock chalk, take a walk.
Right.
Out of here with that nonsense. We got senior day coming up this weekend,
Yep,
which
South
is going to be
Carolina.
another stranger thing because how they're
Yeah.
doing senior day, and senior day doesn't necessarily mean senior day. They haven't even talked with the players because every player has the option to get another season of eligibility.
Yeah.
That was one of the deals the NCAA, because with COVID-19 and being the weird season, it will be fascinating to see who may or may not take advantage of that. That could be interesting. Stoops has made some comments that that they're like things are going to change before next year, but we don't know what those things are. He's been rather cryptic, but he said he just wanted to wait until the end of the season to discuss that, which is fair.
Yeah.
Would they accept a bowl bid? He would like for them to have a bowl bid, but he needs the team to be on board.
Yeah.
And thinks there's a good number of the players that would want to play in a bowl game. But then there's some players that just mentally, I think, are checking out, and that's not a reflection of the program. I think, again, like I said, it's the emotional turmoil that they have been through with illnesses, injuries, deaths
Everything.
around, their brothers. That's. But then, don't you think when you have one game left in the season, you don't get the right to say, I'm going to opt out?
I mean, I'm with you.
Can we
And
just say,
I don't
quit
wanna
on your
say-
team?
Yeah, and I don't want to say that Boss Man Fat isn't good because he's really good. But I mean, man, he got burnt
Earn the nickname.
He got
Earn the freaking
burnt.
nickname.
a lot by some average receivers.
I think
don't
it was
know.
more like maybe his name should have been Fat Man Boss.
I mean, I'm all for kids chasing their dreams. So, have at it. I'm just seeing it through a fan's eyes. So, I'm telling you what I see. I saw you get burnt all year. I seen you make a few good plays. I mean, that's
And
what
I'm saying what I saw is you got burnt. You weren't dominant in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So you decided to opt out
Yeah.
rather than find out it wasn't going to end nicely for you this season.
Right.
And that's quitting. That's quitting on your team.
Yeah. I mean, it is.
You have one more game. Why would you not play one freaking more game? What would the difference be? Why would you not want to be with your brothers one more game?
Right.
That one irritated me. Like I said, I don't like to crap on a player's decision.
Yeah,
I just think the timing.
because we support them chasing dreams. We're not saying that, but you want to go to the NFL. That was one more chance to shine. For
And
your
possibly
team,
too, if we get a bowl, if they had decided on a bowl game, you have
Yeah.
opportunities. And I'm just saying you could benefit from more opportunities because what you showed isn't who you are.
No,
And for
because
some
he's a great
NFL
player.
scouts, they're not going to ever see it.
No.
Which
But-
is a shame. So anyway, stay tuned on everything on football. I'm not picking against them this weekend. I'm hoping that they can pull together enough emotionally and finish on a really high note. I know they want to.
Hashtag strong.
There you go. We talked about Richmond. We talked about Kansas. Detroit Mercy. We're going to play them on the 15th now. That has been rescheduled.
I just saw that. Yeah.
The women, meanwhile, are just going back to take care of business. They're just going out winning games.
And Ryan Howard is coming back finally.
She should have been back tonight.
Yeah, I think so tonight. Yeah.
That game's already over, although let me see. I do not have my box score yet. It's only been about a half hour since it ended, so can't help you out there. Sorry, kids.
Well, I'm sure you've seen it. And once again, we have a great guest, and Michelle runs us over 20 more minutes, over an hour. But I enjoyed it. I always enjoyed it. I look
Eat
forward
rocks.
to Thursday. Right. We used to do that. We used to have a segment.
Well, and then
Nick always comes through, like always.
I knew we won. I didn't know what the
I
final.
didn't.
So
And some people didn't. So thank you, Nick.
the women won 60-49 over Kansas State. Those that can't read the chat window out there.
Right. But we used to have that segment. I will have to bring that back in a few.
Well, there we went through a long time. There was just
the rock pile, man, got real deep. I mean,
the rock pile was like, I mean, we had entire programs in the rock pile.
No,
wasn't like one person, 3 guards. No, man, no, it's just like the entire Duke basketball program.
Right.
Kick rocks. Anyhow, we've done about all the damage we can do for a night, and Jay's already complaining about how much editing. So I think we've covered I feel like I'm forgetting one thing, and I'm trying to think what that. So now I got to go look at my little paper because I feel like there's something.
That's the good thing.
I said that.
Outline.
Yeah. Oh, I guess we've just been on air so long that I forgot that I covered things that I covered.
You say you was so full of hot air so long. What did you just say?
The only person full of hot air in this little enterprise would be the guy who's going to have to enlarge his doorways to get into them.
Wow. And Roger Harden soundbite on how great I am is coming.
He'll tell you how wonderful I am.
Near you. Thanks for joining.
Jay, if you have to toot your own horn, it's
I'm not gonna toot my own horn. I'll let people.
No, if you think you've got to play that everywhere.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you do. That's going to be what our little. Yeah, whatever.
This is going to be for personal use.
Anyway, you can follow us at Rockin' KY Blue. That's ROCKINKY Blue all together. We are on Twitter. We're on Instagram, the Insta. You can find us Facebook page. You know it is not. It will never be ig, just like pig without the P. Okay, you can be pig. You could follow Jay. I don't know. I wouldn't, but you could at JHAZZEKY on Twitter and JAYHAZZEKY on the other social. No, it's not ig because nobody knows where to go if you say ig. They're going to be walking around here looking for like, I'll never hurt. No, the kids call it Insta.
Okay.
Ding dong.
They know. They're going to start saying what I say. Watch.
No, they're not because they know how wrong you are.
Well.
Anyhow, so you can follow me. I'm at Forever Big Blue, FOREVER Big Blue. All together, that's me on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook, but why would you want to? I'm Michelle Golfs a lot on Insta. That's Michelle with one L. It helps you find me a lot easier. Meanwhile, our podcast is every freaking where in the world. Everywhere if there's a podcast platform you listen to, if we're not there, you tell us because we think we are on every single podcast platform that's possible. And once again, as we kind of go into this not good time with COVID-19, we're staying closer to home and doing less. I still like go to Aldi because they're not busy and they've got great prices. Jay goes to work, but one thing's for sure. Wherever we go and whatever we do,
we're always rocking Kentucky Blue.
Thanks for listening to the Rockin' Kentucky Blue podcast. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, Radio Public, or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to stop by and leave us a rating and review. And tune in next time for another episode of Rockin' Kentucky Blue.